All right, I'm sure as many of you have probably noticed these days that the trades are kind of being glorified now, but they are only like displaying a very rosy picture of that industry. In my opinion, the trades are for young people and people who have an entrepreneur can't say the word entrepreneurial drive in them, not just for any Joe off the street who needs a job. Not all trades are equal, they're not the same. Some are a little easier than others, Maybe being like a machinist or something is not as stressful as being an HVAC tech, and maybe not being an HVAC tech is not as stressful as being a plumber. That's what I mean by that. It's a lot of rough work for little pay, making the business owner a lot of money, not yourself. You may have to pay for your own tools, which could be thousands of dollars. Think of like mechanics. Many of them have to buy their own tools, and working on cars is only growing more complicated, especially now that electric and self-driving vehicles are becoming a thing. I've heard others talk about this, and I have a little personal anecdote to add, but a lot of these guys don't really get paid by the hour like most people do at regular jobs. It might be by the time they are clocked in and actually working on a vehicle, but when they aren't fixing a car, they aren't making money, and if that's true, that's kind of fucked up. I have to be vague, but I very briefly worked a trade job not long ago, and while I was training, the guy told me he spent thousands of dollars on his own money on tools, which immediately demoralized me because I don't like spending money like that, especially a lot of money. Not even on myself. Like, I'm a cheap bastard. I might actually have to buy myself a new gaming laptop not long from now, and it sucks to realize that's going to be like at least a couple grand to get one that'll last and play new games that have released recently. But back on point, while we were on the job, I remember having to wait with this guy for like around 2 hours before we could work, and just sitting down in the attic while he played games on his phone because he said he won't get his hours if he completes the job too quickly. So he had to milk it. And that was just so stupid to me. I don't know what it is, if it's related to commissions, and that if it's a job that pays commissions, they have to take some money from you another way, like not paying you for every hour that they get away with that by subtracting the time you drive to the job. I don't know, but just experiencing that was shitty as fuck. I hated it. And speaking of commissions, he also said you have to like be a decent salesman and be able to sell homeowners on products related to the job you are doing for them, like a better filter or something. Like, for example, something they don't really need, but if you get them to do it, and buy that product, you get a little extra cheddar on the side for selling it. And I'm no salesman at all. And to top it all off, the pay wasn't even that good. And I understand part of it was because, I was in training. But hell, even after training like a year or two later at that place, and I would only be making about $2 to $4 more an hour. And I started off at just above minimum wage. It just sucked, dude. Very demoralizing experience, but I was desperate at the time and I ignored the warnings because I had heard all this shit before about how working in the trade sucked, but I didn't last long there at all, which I know is unsurprising. On the other hand, to be fair, if I was younger and my goal was to start my own business or LLC and just do that kind of work for myself as a small business, then my time there wouldn't have been wasted and it would have been a better experience I could have truly taken advantage of. But since none of that is the case with me, I had to think of why the fuck was I doing this job? Like, why? I don't have a family. No one is relying on me. Why in the good goddamn fuck would I work a rough job like that for mediocre pay, deal with jerk co-workers and jerk customers just to come home to an empty fucking house? And I'll add this too. The trades are probably only something you should do if you have a significant other in your life. Fuck it. I'll be brash about it. Someone you can go home and fuck or will suck your dick after enduring all that. Alternatively, it would just be me coming home, eating a small meal alone, playing video games for a little while, maybe watch a TV show episode, beat my dick as that's my only sexual stress reliever, and then do it all over again tomorrow. Like, fuck that. Also, to add even more salt to this, the guy training me said that he got off like 4 hours later than he was supposed to the day before, like at 8 or 9 p.m., to then just get back up early in the morning and go to work at 7. Give me a fucking break. Meanwhile, there are people who get off at a regular time and it's a set schedule, so there's no random I have to stay 3 hours late and maybe not get overtime. I'm sorry if that turned out to be like a whole ass tangent, but I needed to bring that up in relation to this topic of the trades. Yes, the trades are important skills for people to know and be able to perform on some level. Not everybody can be a master plumber, but almost everyone can change their own toilet. Just look up, a tutorial video on YouTube. Learn how to change your own oil, leaky faucet lines, stain your own deck, paint your own rooms, become more mechanically inclined is what I'm saying. Leave the big hard jobs to the professionals. I'll try to leave a related video link in the description. Some of you have probably already seen this video, but it was also related to this topic about the trades and how many workers are underpaid, but they charge customers an arm and a leg, but the business owner gets the biggest cut of that. Like how I mentioned my case about how it wouldn't make much sense for me to work in the trades because I'm not that young. I don't have a romantic partner or a family to provide for. A lot of you guys can relate, I'm sure. I don't have any aspirations to own my own business, especially not a business in the trades. It just doesn't make any sense, guys. Not for me and probably not for many of you. Even if you're broke, these trade jobs can leave you even more broke, especially if you have to buy your own tools. Imagine if, the Walmart workers in the auto care centers had to pay for all their own tools. Nobody would work in that department. Walmart would have to shut down that whole sector. That's how many auto shops and mechanic places, should operate. Yes, I understand that Walmart just does, basic bitch auto care, tire changes and oil changes and stuff like that, and, tire rotations, but the principle should still be the same. Imagine if each car repair shop just had a tool room where the workers could just check out and sign out tools, go use them for the job they are assigned to, then return them back to the room, or for the worker who, does the inventory and does the logs for them. And hey, if the worker loses the tool, it comes out of their pay, incentivizing them to take good care of the tools and be mindful of where they are at all times. And if any worker wanted to buy their own tools or wrenches because, they don't like the ones that the shop provides, or, they don't like the brand, that's on them, as a choice, not a requirement to even be able to work. The whole trade sector just needs an overhaul, and that's basically what I'm getting at. Higher rate wages for the trainees to the experienced guys with 10 plus years under their belt. More unions, better working conditions, and they need to put, shop classes and basic mechanic-like classes back in schools just to get more youth more mechanically inclined, That way they know how to turn a wrench, or know the difference between a flathead and a Phillips head screwdriver. I'm pretty much an excess male like many of you, but I just do not want to, work in those fields. It's almost better to just work in a fucking warehouse, because at least there you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of your own dollars on tools, and your schedule is set, and any more time that you put on the clock is guaranteed overtime. And the pay is damn near the same too, if you think about it. It just sucks that life has become, much more expensive than it was, decades ago. Like, guys, hear this. 2 decades ago, my mother, a single mother, was able to buy and pay for a house by herself on one income that was minimum wage. That is unheard of now. Yeah, it was like a small one-story little house, but it was still a fucking house. How many of you out there would love to have a nice normal little 1 to 2 bedroom house instead of living with your family or forking over what little money you have towards rent? Exactly. With all that said, what do you guys think about what I had to say, or about working in the trades in general? You see this push from a lot of the guys on the conservative side, Mike Rowe and Aaron Clarey and stuff like that, but they paint very rosy pictures of this stuff, and those guys never even worked the trades or really, had to do hard labor for a living, I know Mike Rowe goes out and does these jobs for a day or so to videotape and stuff, but it's just not the same as actually doing that for a living. It's just not the same. I don't know, it just seems for most people it's like a doomed career path that just uses and abuses you until you're not able to do it anymore, and other people have made the point where it just leaves you broken. You put so much wear and tear on your body. Somebody made a good point. I don't remember what site it was from, but they made the point, in a half-joking way, that maybe tradesmen, if they can prove that they've worked in that sector for a long time, they should be able to retire earlier than a person that has not worked in the trades. And I wouldn't even disagree with that. If you've been a carpenter your whole life for 20 to 30 years, I think you should be able to probably retire 5+ years before somebody else gets to, because by that time it's even debatable if you're going to be able to make it to 70 or 75, because there's just so much strain on your body. So with all that being said, do any of you guys have any personal stories or experiences you want to share? Just feel free to comment below. I'd love to read it, and take it easy.